Hello, everyone. Ryan Embree here with The Sweet Spot covering NYU IHIF. I'm here with Amanda. Amanda, you wrapped up yesterday an incredible keynote, gave some forecasts, which we're going to talk about, but a big theme of that was don't believe everything you hear in the headlines. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you've followed the headlines for the last few months, there's so much uncertainty in the world, and then particularly for our industry and what the impacts of what's going on in the world are doing to our industry. And so we really tried to focus on what's actually happening with the performance data, what's demand look like in hotels in the U.S. right now. And it's not as dire as what you might feel like if you're reading the headline.
Yeah, no, it's great. And, you know, it gives a lot of hope to hoteliers right now that are seeing those outside factors, but really concentrating on the data and providing that information, like you said, really keeps those margins, which are really tight right now, in line. But all is not the same for every single segment or chain scale. Talk to us a little about that.
Yeah, and that's really the story that we've seen for the last 12 months is this bifurcation of demand happening across the U.S. So it's the luxury and upper upscale chain scales that are seeing the most demand growth. It's the top 25 markets where we're seeing growth in demand, particularly in the Northeast of the top 25 markets. So while it's certainly not a rosy picture everywhere, it really depends on the market you're in, what type of hotel you have, and what the demand looks like, but also what profitability looks like for you.
Absolutely. And there's been a lot of talk about booking windows too, and those actually shrinking really, really close space. So maybe those forecasts, again, looking 30, 60, 90 out might not be as bad as travelers start to see clearer picture of what their finances look like.
We are definitely seeing the shorter booking window in our forward occupancy data. So we do occupancy on the books for the top 25 markets in the U.S. And in June, our occupancy on the books for the same time last year, very strong. We're ahead of where we were last year in June. July and August are a little soft, but that's that shorter booking window. So we expect as we get closer to those months, things will pick up. So we're about where we were last year.
Yeah, and I think, again, if you look at the headlines, you might not think that. So it's really looking at the data underneath. But as we know, I mean, it's different in every single market, right? What are some of those hot markets right now that you're watching?
Well, so far this year, San Francisco leads the way in terms of RevPAR growth year to date, which I think a lot of people are surprised by, but that has been supported by really good group demand growth in San Francisco.
Sure.
Obviously, it's an easy comp. That's a market that has struggled to recover post-COVID, but it is doing really well. And then it's markets where you've got big events. So New Orleans done well this year to date, because it had the Super Bowl in February. And that's really, as we look at what's going to happen the rest of the year, we're paying attention to where there are these top tier events happening in markets. That's where the demand drivers are that people are going to go.
We saw last year, or a couple of years ago, Taylor Swift, and the impact and effect that it had on our industry. So hopefully she goes on tour here soon.
Wouldn't that be great? But we have Beyonce on tour now, which is a draw. Yeah. So there are events like that are drawing people to travel that are very good demand generators, and that's where any demand growth that we get will be from that kind of,
like you were talking about with the switch of Easter this year.
Yeah, so we knew that there was going to be a bit of shift in demand because Easter was in April, but what we saw happen was the spring breaks for schools, both K-12 and colleges, spread out over about 6 or 7 weeks instead of what we would normally see in 3 to 4 weeks. Overall, we ended up really a little bit stronger than last year in terms of demand, but it is a week by week, kind of depends on what holidays are happening, what events are happening, where demand's going.
And that's why it's so important to kind of look at those macro factors too, right? And take those into account, because you could look at last year at, when that holiday was in a different section and say, hey, we're not doing as well, but could actually be doing better at a different part of the year. Right. So it's really important to do that. Obviously, we look to STR as kind of the North Star compass for where we're headed. You do forecasts, put out a revised forecast. Give us some key points from that.
Not surprising, because, the economy is slowing down. We did revise the forecast down. We expect RevPAR growth to be 1% this year, again, driven by rate growth. The bulk of the growth is going to come in the luxury upper upscale segment. So we expect luxury RevPAR to be at 3.4% growth this year. I think the highlights are we still expect demand growth. So we have demand at 0.5%. There's very little new supply. The supply's just not been a big issue for a couple of years now. So that helps us in a slowing economic environment that we know demand's going to soften a little, but it will still be positive growth for the year.
That's great to hear. Yeah, construction costs obviously big. That's why important events like this are put on to hopefully get those deals done, get more supply and development out there, and hopefully we continue to see demand drive up. Amanda, we're also celebrating a little bit of a milestone anniversary, 40 years for STR. Reflecting back on that, give us some of your thoughts.
It's exciting. Hard to believe. June 1st is the 40-year anniversary for STR. So we are just thrilled at our continued position in the industry, our evolution as a business, and the offering that we bring to the industry. We've been super excited over the last 5 years. When we became part of CoStar, we've made some significant investments to put out the best product that we can and continue to deliver on that every day. So we're excited for the next 40 years.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a good milestone, and we just are so appreciative of all of our customers and our data partners in the industry that allow us to build a business like this.
Well, congratulations to you and your team. Thank you for joining me here, and we'll keep an eye out for all the forecast and more data to come.
It'll be a good year.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. And thanks for listening to The Sweet Spot.